Ask someone shopping for their first offshore boat what they'd buy. Then ask someone who's owned three. You'll probably get two completely different answers. The interesting part isn't that they chose different boats. It's why. Somewhere between their first boat and their third, experienced anglers stop chasing bigger engines, flashier brands, and showroom excitement. They start looking for something else entirely. And once that shift happens, they rarely go back. So here's your challenge. Before you hear a single name on this list, tell us which offshore boat you'd spend your own money on today. Drop it in the comments now, not after, before. By the end of this video, you'll be able to come back to that comment and see whether you'd still make the same choice. This isn't a list of the fastest offshore boats. It isn't about luxury, either. It's about 6 offshore boats serious anglers keep buying, and the lessons they learned that most people don't until it's expensive to learn them. Let's get into it. Number 6. Parker. Every angler's first boat purchase tends to follow the same script. Walk the docks, get seduced by the boat with the most electronics, the most seating, the most obvious wow factor stepping aboard. Parker rarely wins that first impression. It is not flashy, it does not try to be. And that, it turns out, is exactly the point. First-time buyers usually notice what a Parker does not have. No oversized helm displays stacked 3 high. No excessive creature comforts marketed to make the boat feel like a floating lounge. Experienced anglers notice something else entirely. They notice what is not going to break. Owners who have run Parkers for 10, 15, 20 years talk about them the same way. Simple systems, fewer points of failure, a hull that has been quietly refined instead of reinvented every model year for marketing purposes. When you are 60 miles offshore and something goes wrong, you do not want to be troubleshooting a boat with more complexity than it needs. You want a boat that does exactly what it promises, without surprises. This is where experience changes everything. A first-time buyer sees a stripped-down layout and assumes they are missing out. A veteran angler sees the same layout and recognizes discipline. Every unnecessary system is one less thing that can fail on a bad day. Parker owners are not chasing minimalism as an aesthetic. They are chasing fewer variables between them and getting home safely. Dealer support matters here too. Parker has built a reputation among a smaller, quieter, more loyal customer base, the kind of owners who do not upgrade every 3 years because they never had a reason to. Resale holds up because the boats simply keep running. Some boats earn customers, others earn repeat customers. Parker has spent decades proving it belongs firmly in the second category, one unglamorous, dependable trip at a time. The lesson experienced anglers learn from Parker ownership is simple. Reliability is not boring. Reliability is what lets you stop thinking about the boat and start thinking about the fish. Number 5. Contender. If you are enjoying the countdown so far, take a second to like the video and subscribe to Boat Verdict. We break down offshore boats the way experienced anglers actually talk about them, without the hype and without the sales pitch. Now, back to the list. Contender occupies a strange space in the offshore world. It is a performance brand built by people obsessed with speed and rough water handling, yet it never quite markets itself as a luxury boat. That distinction matters more than most first-time buyers realize. Walk up to a Contender at a boat show and a newcomer will usually ask about top speed. That is the obvious headline. But spend time around anglers who actually own one and the conversation shifts almost immediately to something else entirely. How the boat handles a beam sea at cruising speed when nobody is filming for social media, when the water is simply doing what water does 80 miles from the nearest inlet. Experienced anglers notice hull design before they notice horsepower. They notice cockpit layout before they notice cup holders. Contender built its reputation on a deep V hull that prioritizes performance and fishability over comfort features that look good in a showroom but rarely matter once the boat is loaded down with fuel, ice, and gear. Here is what most buyers miss. A fast boat that beats you up in 3-foot chop is not actually a fast boat offshore. It is a liability. Contender owners have learned, often the hard way on some other brand first, that a boat's ability to maintain speed and control in real conditions matters infinitely more than a number printed in a brochure. Ownership experience tells the same story repeatedly. Contender attracts tournament anglers and serious weekend warriors who log real offshore hours, not just marina hours. That community talks. They compare notes on how the boat performed during a run home ahead of a storm, not how it looked tied up at the dock. Experienced anglers don't always chase the newest boat. They chase fewer surprises offshore. Contender has built an entire identity around exactly that principle: performance you can trust rather than performance you simply admire. The lesson here extends past the boat itself. Luxury fades the first time you get soaked. Capability doesn't. Anglers who have been humbled by the ocean stop shopping for comfort and start shopping for control. Number 4. Pursuit. Pursuit tells a different kind of story, one about restraint in a different form: specialization. First-time buyers often assume the smartest purchase is the boat built for exactly what they plan to do: a dedicated tournament fishing machine, a boat stripped of anything unrelated to chasing fish. On paper, that logic sounds airtight. In practice, experienced anglers know something the brochure never mentions. Life offshore rarely stays in one lane. The same boat that runs out for a tuna trip on Saturday might carry the family for a sunset cruise on Sunday. The angler who fishes hard all summer still needs a boat that works when plans change, when friends want to come along, when the day shifts from serious fishing to something more relaxed. This is where Pursuit quietly wins over buyers who have owned 2 or 3 boats already. Pursuit builds boats that fish seriously without forcing owners to sacrifice comfort, without turning every outing into a stripped-down workboat experience. That balance is harder to engineer than it sounds, and it takes years of ownership to fully appreciate why it matters. What experienced anglers notice instead of raw specialization is flexibility under real-world use. A boat that can run offshore for grouper one weekend and comfortably host a family day the next is a boat that gets used more often. And a boat that gets used more often earns its price tag in a way a hyper-specialized boat, sitting unused half the season, never will. Owners who have made this switch, often moving away from a narrower, more aggressive fishing boat, describe the same realization. They fish just as much, sometimes more, because the boat no longer feels like a single-purpose tool. It feels like part of their life on the water, not just their fishing calendar. Here's what most buyers miss: versatility is not a compromise. It is often the smarter, long-term decision, especially once real life, families, budgets, and changing seasons get factored into boat ownership. Some boats impress you the day you buy them. These boats impress you years later, the first time you realize you never once regretted the layout. Number 3. Regulator. There is a moment every offshore angler eventually experiences, usually somewhere between year 3 and year 5 of ownership. The moment the weather turns faster than the forecast promised, and the ride home suddenly matters more than anything the boat's spec sheet ever mentioned. Regulator was built around that exact moment. First-time buyers looking at a Regulator often focus on styling, the clean lines, the understated but premium look that has become the brand's signature. It is a good-looking boat, no question. But that is not what keeps owners coming back season after season. Experienced anglers notice the hull's behavior in a following C. They notice how the boat tracks when conditions deteriorate, how predictable it feels when predictability suddenly becomes the only thing that matters. Confidence offshore is priceless, and Regulator has built its entire brand identity around earning that confidence through engineering rather than marketing. This is where experience changes everything. A newer boater might not fully register the difference between a boat that merely survives rough water and a boat that remains composed in it. But anyone who has run offshore long enough to be caught out past the safety of the inlet understands the difference instantly and never forgets it once they feel it. Regulator owners frequently describe a specific kind of trust, the sense that the boat will not surprise them when conditions get difficult. That trust is not built during a calm demo ride on a sunny afternoon. It is built slowly, trip after trip, through years of real offshore use in conditions that would make a less capable hull feel unpredictable. Dealer support and a smaller, more deliberate production approach reinforce that same philosophy. Regulator has never chased rapid growth or flashy expansion. It has focused on refining one core idea: a hull that performs honestly in real conditions, and that focus shows in long-term owner loyalty. Experience changes what you value. A first-time buyer values comfort features. An experienced angler values the boat's behavior in the one moment comfort features stop mattering entirely. The lesson Regulator teaches is not about the boat at all. It is about what confidence offshore is actually worth once you have felt what its absence feels like. Number 2. Boston Whaler. Few names in the marine industry carry the kind of built-in trust that Boston Whaler has earned, and that trust did not happen overnight. It happened over decades. First-time buyers often know the name before they know why it matters. Unsinkable, a phrase used in commercials for generations, almost to the point of becoming background noise. But spend time around anglers who have owned a whaler for 15 or 20 years, and that word stops sounding like a marketing slogan. It starts sounding like a quiet promise the brand has kept, trip after trip, for longer than most competitors have existed. Experienced anglers notice something newer buyers often overlook entirely: consistency across decades. A whaler bought today shares a philosophy with a whaler bought 30 years ago, even as the boats themselves have evolved dramatically. That continuity builds a kind of trust that cannot be manufactured quickly, no matter how large a marketing budget gets. Here's what most buyers miss. Brand loyalty in the marine industry is rarely about nostalgia. It is about accumulated evidence, thousands of owners across thousands of trips reporting the same experience over and over. A hull that holds up, a boat that retains value. Boston Whaler owners frequently describe service experiences that feel less like a transaction and more like an ongoing relationship. The kind of support that becomes invaluable the one time something actually goes wrong, offshore. Trust takes decades to earn. Boston Whaler is proof that the boats experienced anglers keep buying are rarely the newest names in the industry. They are the names that have already survived the test every angler eventually applies: time. Number 1. Grady-White. And that brings us to the top of the list. The brand experienced offshore anglers return to more consistently than any other. Grady-White does not win on flash. It has never tried to. First-time buyers occasionally look right past it, drawn instead toward louder, more aggressive-looking competitors. That initial impression, more than almost anything else on this list, is exactly what separates a first-time buyer's thinking from an experienced angler's thinking. Experienced anglers do not primarily ask what a boat costs. They ask what it will cost them over the next 15 years, and what it will be worth the day they eventually decide to sell it. Grady-White has built its entire reputation around answering that second question better than nearly anyone else in the industry. Resale value on a well-maintained Grady-White consistently outperforms the broader market, and that is not an accident. It is the direct result of decades of consistent build quality, a hull design refined rather than reinvented, and a customer base that talks loudly and often about long-term reliability rather than short-term impressions. This is where experience changes everything one final time. A newer boater sees the purchase price and makes a decision based on that single number. A veteran angler sees the purchase price, the maintenance history of similar boats, the resale trends over the past decade, and the dealer support available years down the road. Then makes a decision based on the full picture. Owners routinely describe a specific kind of vindication that arrives years after the sale, the moment they realize the boat has held its value while a friend's flashier purchase has quietly lost tens of thousands of dollars. That is not a coincidence. It is the direct result of the same principle that connects every boat on this list. Serious anglers don't buy boats to impress the dock. They buy boats that will still make sense 5, 10, 15 years later, long after the initial excitement of a new purchase fades into ordinary daily use. Grady-White sits at the top of this list not because it is flashy, and not because it is the most talked about boat in any given season. It sits here because long-term value, not short-term excitement, is ultimately what experienced anglers have learned to prioritize above everything else. Here is the truth this entire list has been building toward. The biggest difference between experienced offshore anglers and everyone else was never really about the boats themselves. It was never about horsepower, or hull color, or how many screens sit at the helm. It was about how they choose. First-time buyers are shopping for a feeling, the excitement of stepping aboard something new and impressive. Experienced anglers are shopping for evidence, years of ownership stories, resale patterns, dealer relationships, and honest performance in conditions no showroom can replicate. That shift in thinking, more than any single brand on this list, is what actually separates a confident offshore purchase from a regretted one. So here is the question again, the same one we asked at the very beginning. Has this list changed your answer? If this video gave you a new way to think about offshore boats, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to Boat Verdict, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown.